And thank you all for being here. Today, Oregon, a part of a broad coalition of states' attorneys general, filed a lawsuit to protect Oregon's interest in Paramount Skydance's proposed acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery. We're also filing a temporary restraining order today, asking the court to put a hold on the deal while this lawsuit proceeds. The deal would combine two of the country's largest film and television studios and reshape a media landscape that touches every Oregonian's wallet, their work site, and their remote control. Oregon has had and does have a thriving film and television production industry that supports good jobs and brings production spending into every single one of our communities. Oregon has been home to productions of all sorts of sizes, going back to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, to Goonies, to television productions such as Grimm and Portlandia. And all of us are incredibly proud and should be proud of the industry that has been cultivated here in Oregon. And this is an industry, though, that depends on healthy competition and in a competitive marketplace. And when two of the largest studios combined, that competition narrows. When you have fewer competitors in an industry, historically, that means less pressure to keep costs down. That's less content diversity and less leverage for workers and vendors who depend on this very own industry. It's not just about production in this case. Combining Warner and Paramount would create a streaming service that would rival Disney Plus and Netflix subscription base into one process and one product that would mean keeping pressure on prices for all Oregonians low. We'll also have a lot of independent and boutique movie theaters here in Oregon with diverse entertainment and things for theater goers across this state. This deal could lead to consolidation, tighter control of content, and a much tougher time for those smaller businesses and venues. As I've said before, Oregonians have a direct stake in this deal, in our film industry, in our economy, and the choices that we have as consumers. So to put this into real terms for Oregonians, this deal would mean fewer jobs, it would mean fewer productions, it would mean higher costs, less choice, less diversity in what we watch and how we watch it. It's a bad deal for Oregon workers and for us as Oregonians, as consumers. Our office opened an investigation into this merger several months back under Oregon's antitrust laws. And this merger should have gone like any other investigation where when we request documents, the companies proceed and give us the documents that we're looking at for our investigation. Instead, when we issued a civil investigative demand seeking documents of Paramount's lobbying of its federal officials and, importantly, its internal effort named Project Warrior to secure regulatory approval, Paramount refused to accept service. Then they let our follow-up emails go unanswered. When they finally responded, they asked for more time. On the very day their narrowed, extended timeline arrived, instead of producing documents, they produced objections. And objections are not a legalized or recognized way here in Oregon to respond to a civil investigative demand. Last week, we asked a Multnomah County Circuit Court judge to order Paramount to comply with our demands and to require Paramount to hold off on closing this deal for no less than 60 days. This hearing was supposed to be today. Last week, when it was decided that we would proceed in a multi-state lawsuit that is being filed today, we withdrew from that hearing and folded our efforts entirely into this federal lawsuit today. We still want and will get the documents that were requested under our civil investigative demand. Some people are going to continue to ask, why are we pursuing this opposition to this merger when the U.S. Department of Justice has already greenlit this deal? Well, this is by design. States have the ability under our own antitrust laws to enforce these regulations. We as states will see different harms than the national government will see. We will see harms to our workers as a state. We will see harms to our consumers and industries that may be missed on a national level. Under Trump, the federal administration has also stepped away, way back from investigating and enforcing our antitrust laws here in this country. And this is why states have had to step up. There are also real reported publicly concerns about how decisions were made in this case, including reporting that the federal U.S. Department of Justice drafted its closing statement with senior officials without consulting career input from antitrust attorneys who had been leaning towards challenging this deal from the very beginning. That reporting is part of the reason why our office cannot just simply rely upon the U.S. Department of Justice's word in this case, and why we need Paramount to turn over its records. Whether it's grocery prices, concert tickets, internet service, or our morning or evening news, when competition disappears, Oregon families will undoubtedly foot the bill. When the federal government steps back from enforcing its antitrust laws, its anti-competitive laws to protect families, the Oregon Department of Justice is forced to step into this role, and that is what we're doing today. So I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have about this lawsuit and the proposed steps moving forward.
Thank you, Attorney General Rayfield. First, we have Amanda Arden with her hand raised.
Hi, Attorney General Rayfield. This is Amanda Arden with CBS News. Hoping you can hear me. My question for Oh, great, fabulous. My question for you, my first question comes from the statement we received today from Paramount's attorneys. They said the complaint you filed, quote, distorts settled antitrust law and is based on a misrepresentation of competition in the entertainment industry. Can you elaborate at all on those claims that they're making and what that misrepresentation might be, if it exists?
I think that people should allow the facts to speak for themselves. These are the two largest film and television studios. If you look at the content between both Paramount and Warner Brothers, combining those two creates a consolidation of power that is going to trickle down to consumers. Think about it. When you've got users like CNN within Warner Brothers, when you've got TNT, these other large what I would say television production studios, and then you combine that with the power that Paramount Plus has, and you put that together, and then you start negotiating deals from there. A tremendous amount of consolidation occurs at that point. That is going to trickle down and increase prices for all of us as consumers. So these are the type of things that we're looking at. I appreciate the statements that are put out by Paramount Plus, but again, I think we need to let the facts speak for themselves.
Next, we have Curtis.
Hi, Mr. Attorney General. Curtis Eichelberger at MLEX. You found that the companies will have more than 30% of top grossing theatrical film distribution. It's a submarket that resembles a lot the one defined in the Penguin Random House case, where a federal judge accepted a narrower market to find harm. But in that case, the parties held about 90% of the market share. Here, they are above the structural presumption, 30%, but not something as extreme as 90%. Why do you believe you'll be successful here? And are you counting on additional coordination theories of harm of some sort with a greater concentration in the top four distributors?
No, I mean, what we're looking at here, and again, I would just move people back to the facts without getting into a ton of the details. You have two of the largest industries that are consolidating. And I think as you talk around your neighborhoods, as you talk around your own communities, people are concerned about this consolidation. Because if you think about the way that we consume, if you think about the way that the production companies put together information, when you put all those numbers together, as you pointed out, you are above the presumption. And that is what we're really focused on here, and having an honest conversation with our communities about what does this really mean for people's pocketbooks? What does this mean for production and development and the diversity of ideas that we're seeing? And I think this is what I would call a continuation of a dangerous precedent that we're seeing in our media today.
Okay, now Diane Alter.
Hi, you did mention jobs were part of your concern, but I don't see any mention of labor in the complaint. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, and there are a lot of concerns that we have that are not always going to be articulated in every single paragraph of the complaint. One of the things that you can see is you have one company, and you've seen this historically when you consolidate power into one company, and it doesn't matter what industry that is. What has often happened is less jobs in those communities. And so that is obviously a pressing concern that people are always going to be focused on. Some of those things are not always going to be articulated within a complaint.
Thank you.
Amanda with CBS again.
Thank you for taking a second question. This one is about the Project Warrior that you mentioned, the lobbying effort Paramount allegedly engaged in. Can you provide any more details about that lobbying effort and why it was of concern to you?
Well, this is part of the reason, that we wanted the documents that Paramount had been resisting. And we're hopeful and encouraged by conversations that we will get a hold of those documents and take a look. Here's the deal with our antitrust and anti-competitive laws. When you have a Trump administration that is blatantly talking about how they're approving deals here and there, not necessarily in this specific case, there is a credibility issue in the way that the U.S. Department of Justice is making decisions. And that's part of the problem here, is where we cannot always rely upon the decisions that are coming out from the U.S. Department of Justice. Think about the Ticketmaster case that we recently went to trial on. This is a case on the eve of trial that U.S. Department of Justice settled on incredibly favorable terms that were in opposition to how the states felt. And Democrats and Republican attorney generals stood up, took that case to trial, and were successful. So we're just in a very new era of what's going on with respect to our antitrust laws. And this is, I think, what you're going to start to see is the federal government needs to know they're going through this process. They need to bring states along. We need transparency. We need to understand how and why decisions are made. And we are in this vacuum right now where the public really believes that the decisions that are coming out of the U.S. Department of Justice are political. And that is not just in the antitrust realm. This is obviously in the way they're enforcing our criminal laws as well. So this, what I would say, trust deficit has resulted in this. Frankly, what we want as states is a partnership with the U.S. Department of Justice, and we just don't have that right now.
All right. I have a lot of people on this call. Oh, okay, Curtis. Another question from Curtis.
Thanks. Mr. Attorney General, just two short ones. One, did the DOJ do anything or say anything to try and talk you out of filing the suit? And the second question is, one big concern on this merger is that post-merger, Paramount might not produce the 30 films that they've promised. They promised that in Congress. They've said it everywhere. But my understanding is they didn't put it in writing. Is that true? And that's a pretty big difference between saying it and putting it in a document. Is that true? And what reason did they give you for not willing to go that far?
Yeah, and I think what I would say is, from a baseline coming from an attorney, when we want to see what the future is going to look like, we do want to see things in writing, right? I mean, that is an incredibly important thing. I can't speak to the specifics on why anyone chooses to do what they do under those circumstances. And the first part of your question, I apologize. I skipped to the latter part.
Did the DOJ try and talk you out of filing the suit?
No, well, we have not received, at least I personally have not received any contact trying to talk me out of filing this lawsuit.
Okay, thanks an awful lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have I'm A. Green. If you could unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. You can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's part of the impetus of the suit based on concerns about influence on the news media. There's been some reporting by the Wall Street Journal that there was some talk possibly between President Trump and some people involved in this deal. Paramount owns CBS and has undergone changes under new leadership that critics of free press have criticized or very concerned about. CNN is owned by Warner Brothers. Is there any concern that Paramount may try to make changes to CNN in order to please the president?
I mean, I think when you're talking with your family at the dinner table, you're always going to talk about how you want to have independence of how you receive your news. I think that's incredibly important. The news that we receive should not be influenced by Republicans, nor should it be influenced by Democratic influences, right? It should be based upon typical journalistic integrity and the principles that follow. As specifically whether you assume Paramount would try to make changes within CNN or do things along those lines. Of course, diversity of content and opinions does matter to us as consumers, but this lawsuit is really based upon traditional antitrust factors as we're moving forward. Of course, that's going to spill out into different avenues, and having the diversity of news sources that we have as consumers is important to all of us.
So important, but not a driver of this lawsuit.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a frequent flyer, Curtis. It looks like he has another question.
Thanks, but I'm good. It was already asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, your hand was up. We have a lot of people on this call. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us.